Hello, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But there's often one E that's overlooked.
And that's educational. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to help share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
The topic of today's discussion, the Iranian film, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, starring Sohaila Golestani, Misag Zareh, Masa Rostami, and Sitara Maleki. It was written and directed by Mohammad Rasoulof, a man who's become a new hero of mine.
Me too.
As always, there will be spoilers ahead, so consider yourselves duly and officially warned. And if you haven't seen it or listened to it, hopefully, or if you haven't seen it and you still listen to us, hopefully what we say will make you want to see it that much more. Be sure to leave a like, rating, or review wherever you listen and watch, because it really helps us grow the show. And before we begin, I just want to give a quick disclaimer.
Yeah.
To any of those of you out there listening, watching us, Ryan and I are not historians. And despite the fact that I do have a political science degree, I am not a practicing political scientist. We are watching these movies and discussing them from the point of view of really how they move us emotionally and what we feel that we can learn from them about ourselves, about life, what have you. And so we certainly don't seek to step on the toes of anyone when it comes to historical accuracy. We're really doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And so to those of you out there who are hearing, if you hear something that you feel isn't quite right, what have you, please do leave us a comment because it's really important to us.
Yeah.
We appreciate and we welcome the feedback. Just know that we are earnestly trying to do the best we can with all of these movies that we discuss.
Absolutely. Well said.
So there's our disclaimer.
With that being said, shall we begin?
Let's begin.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So every now and again, before you and I begin our episode, sometimes we'll remind the watching or listening audience that our show format is not that of a typical review.
Right.
We look for poignant themes in the movie or show, subjects that we can personally relate to or touch by, and explore the work through that lens. So, Ryan and I can I say that we are students of life?
Absolutely.
I think that applies to both of us. And as such, we find that film can teach us a lot about ourselves and, frankly, about life. And I bring this up because of the impact this movie had on me.
Oh.
I bring this up because of what the man who wrote and directed this went through to get it made and distributed.
Remarkable.
I mean, it is so remarkable. We who are in the industry of film and TV in this country cannot truly conceive of how making a film could get us imprisoned or possibly worse.
Yeah, it's unfathomable.
It is completely unfathomable. And for that, we should all be thankful.
Yeah.
Our impediments are numerous to getting our projects made. And I take nothing away from the extraordinary efforts that American filmmakers put into making their art.
Sure.
But as of now, we do not risk our liberty and or our lives in making a movie.
Yeah.
But Mohammad Rasoulof did exactly that.
Yeah, he did.
The man who wrote and directed this film put his life in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, which makes it, for me, all the more impactful, all the more moving, all the more. It's just having that leaving the theater, knowing that what they went through and sort of me and you both, reading up on stories of how they got it made and what things they had to go through and what they had to do and dodge. And it just was such a remarkable experience. And then it comes through in the art. It comes through in the final product. You feel it.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? And I think look, I love going into movies completely blind. I love going in without knowing almost anything about it because I want to be surprised. I want it to feel fresh.
Agreed.
I think that knowing what they went through before going in actually, to me, makes it all the more poignant. Look, I'm, ancient relative to you, and it's like knowing about what they went through in Fleetwood Mac to make Rumors.
Sure.
That sounds like a very, light snack compared to this movie.
Sure.
But, they were going through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So jumping into this, as the words on the screen at the beginning of the film told us, this film was made almost entirely in secret.
When that popped up, when that's the first thing that I saw, I was like, oh, I'm in for a treat. This is going to be a hell of a film.
Exactly. And so with that context as well, you're thinking, how'd they do this?
Exactly.
How did they do this? And they did it so beautifully. Proverbial hat is so off to the man who made this. So Ryan, how can this episode be about anything other than bravery? I couldn't think of another theme. As I said a little earlier, Ryan and I were talking about the movie just a little bit beforehand. I felt like the theme just jumped out, and I thought about it a little bit. I thought, what other theme could there be other than courage, other than bravery?
Yeah, that's exactly, you're right. That's such a poignant theme in this entire film, and agreed. I would have a difficult time picking anything else.
Yeah. So my question for you, Ryan, and for y'all out there, have you ever experienced bravery firsthand, or can you think of examples of bravery that impressed you? If you wanna sit on that a bit, I welcome you to do that.
What your answer would be. I'm curious what this might help me frame my answer to the question.
Yeah. Because again, for those of you who've listened to our show or are new to our show, Ryan and I like to pose questions, kind of to get things going and to really jogging. Exactly, and to get us into the theme of what we're going to be discussing.
Yeah.
We also like to relate these themes to ourselves personally. And so in thinking about, have I ever seen, bravery firsthand, I thought about, have I ever seen anybody rescue anybody? Have I ever seen anything like that?
Obvious.
And then what popped into my head, one of the first things that came to mind was, I'm going to take you back to a time before you were on the planet, I believe.
Okay.
And this was just after my college graduation.
I'm excited.
I was just had that diploma. It was quite fresh. It was still warm off the press.
The world in front of you.
Yes, indeed. The world in front of me. And the day was June 4th, 1989. I remember that because June 4th is my mom's birthday.
Okay.
And I was, like I said earlier, I got my undergraduate degree in political science. And so I'm at a party, and it's morning, but we're having a good time.
Sure.
And a lot of us were poli-sci majors, and the TV was on.
Oh, boy.
And when this particular scene came on the TV, we all went quiet. We went from music blaring, a lot of beers for breakfast, to absolute quiet standing in front of the TV. And what we were seeing was one solitary man facing off a row of tanks in Tiananmen Square in Beijing.
Interesting.
He has since become known as Tank Man. If you Google him, his actual identity and fate have never been revealed. In 1998, Time magazine named him the quote-unquote unknown rebel and included him in their list of the 100 most influential people of the 20th century. I remember him vividly because, again, it was my mother's birthday. I just graduated, and we were having fun.
Sure.
And
can I ask a question here?
Please.
Is this how you watching this like live?
Yes.
So this is like unfolding on television.
Yes, because there were protests going on in Tiananmen Square, and this is a big deal because A, we could see it, but B, China was a lot more hardcore in 1989. The authoritarian, they didn't have a mixed economy yet. So it was still under strict communist rule
Okay.
at this time. And
So there's protests.
there are protests
against
going on. And
the-
when you protest, you are taking your life into your own hands. And also something else, I don't know if I have it in my notes, but most Chinese people in China still don't know about this, still don't know about Tank Man.
Huh. So it was like buried by the.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Chinese government?
he was such a symbol of defiance and courage and strength. This guy stood against a row of tanks. You really need to see the visual, Ryan. It's remarkable.
And this was getting coverage from like NBC, CBS, Fox, something like that, like a.
Probably CNN even
Okay.
back
yeah.
then.
Wow. So you guys are just all there partying, and then the next thing you know, like
Yep.
everybody's attention's on the TV because you're watching
Yep.
this guy.
And the lead tank would start to go around him, and he'd move to block it.
Whoa. Fascinating. I gotta look this up after this.
It was, yeah.
I've never heard of this before.
Well, I'm glad you're hearing of it now.
You're educating the people. Look at that. The younger generation.
See, there is an advantage to being
now
old as
about
dirt.
Tank Man.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the way you could look, it was like the ultimate game of chicken. And he seemed to win. And the Chinese government still prohibits distribution of images from that event. So most Chinese citizens, like I was saying, don't even know about it. And the man who displayed that bravery probably had no idea that anyone was seeing it, let alone the rest of the world.
Sure.
And he wasn't doing that for like, look at me.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. He was doing it for them. He was doing it for the people.
The cause.
You know?
Yeah.
Amazing. So,
Wow.
so bringing us back to the movie, here's a quote from Wikipedia. In May 2024, following the announcement that this film, Seed of the Sacred Fig, was selected as the main competition at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, Mohammad Rasoulof was sentenced by the Islamic Republic to 8 years in prison, whipping, and a fine.
Whipping?
Yes.
Whoa.
Rasoulof fled to a safe house in Germany after the sentencing. I have no idea how he did that. I've tried to find that information. You can't find it. Because once you get sentenced, it's like, was he not in custody already? I don't know. And perhaps someone out there does know, and they will comment. And that's great. I welcome it because I'd love to hear. I mean, maybe he'll make a story about that, a movie about that.
Sure.
But this is not the first film that's landed him in serious jeopardy with the Iranian government. Quite frankly, given our format and time restriction, I can't do justice to the life of Rasoulof because his story is one of exceptional bravery and conviction. And this movie reflects those qualities.
I think, yeah, I mean, we were talking about how bravery is kind of the theme of the film, but man, like, he's the most brave out of them all. I mean, these are characters, sure, but the guy behind it all making it happen and doing this knowing
Yeah.
the consequences
Yeah.
that he would face. I mean, that's like you said, that's true bravery. That's somebody who's like, despite what I know is going to happen, this is the right, what I
That's
feel is
right.
the right thing to do.
That's right.
And this story needs to be heard.
Right.
It needs to get out there. So I'll tell it and I'll put myself in a place of jeopardy.
Right. So, and look, it's not as though he had to make this. Nobody's putting a gun to his head. Quite the opposite.
Yeah,
He's almost bringing the guns on by doing this.
Yeah, he's embarking on this knowing
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Yeah. And this isn't about, finding a market and filling it. And I'm going to make the right genre movie, make all this kind of money. Are you kidding?
Yeah, yeah. This had nothing to do with that. This was more so like purely just this story needs to be told.
This story needs to be told, and the world needs to see what happens here in Tehran, in
Sure.
Iran.
Sure, and watching this, look, it affected both of us
Sure did.
incredibly.
Sure did. I will say, I believe the runtime is 2 hours and 47 minutes. I never looked at my watch. I never looked at my phone.
Yeah.
I never thought, I never thought that.
Mm-hmm.
So while talking about that, let me do my best to give a quick synopsis.
A concise synopsis of a 2 hour and 45-minute movie.
Really
Okay,
gonna
let's
try.
do it.
I'm
Let's see how
really
you
gonna
do.
try. Yeah, let's see how I do.
Okay.
So the setting is Tehran, as I was saying. in the not-so-distant past, during a time of national unrest and political protests against the authoritarian government, more specifically against the death of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old Kurdish woman who died under mysterious circumstances in police custody. Sound familiar?
Tehran, Iran, by the way.
Yeah, Tehran, Iran.
Yeah.
And because Ryan and I did I'm Still Here, and we talked about parallel circumstances.
Yeah. 2 films that came out in 2020.
2 beautiful, hard-hitting, fantastic films that we are thankful were made.
Yes.
So the woman who was killed had been allegedly wearing her hijab, her headscarf, improperly. So in this movie, Iman, who's the dad, played by Misagzareh, is a husband and father of 2 daughters, aged roughly 16 and 21. He's also an investigative lawyer who's recently been appointed as a judge in the Revolutionary Court in Tehran. He's positioned in this movie as an honest player, someone with ethics. And this promotion is an honor that comes with a higher salary and a bigger apartment.
Yeah.
And his daughters currently share a bedroom, and he's reminded of that unfavorable fact, I'd say hourly, in his life. So getting this promotion and getting a bigger apartment with another, bedroom is going to make a big difference in their quality of life.
Sure.
However, Iman quickly discovers that he wasn't hired to investigate cases, but simply to rubber stamp judgments presented to him by his superiors. Mm-hmm. His position requires anonymity for the safety of himself and his family. He's also given a gun, though he has no clue how to use it or safely store it. Najmeh, his wife, played beautifully by Sohaila Golestani.
So good.
She's amazing.
She is.
Not only does she have to negotiate the relentless inquisitiveness and just the relentlessness of her daughters, played by Mosa Rostami and Sitara Maleki, but she also has to remain loyal and supportive to Iman, who grows ever more secretive, withdrawn, and paranoid.
Yeah.
All the while, these protests are raging around the city, with Rezvan and Sana, the 2 daughters, watching as much as they could on their phones via social media. Mm-hmm. Because obviously the news is not carrying this. So these are brave Iranians who are recording this material and posting it on social media to get it out.
Yeah, and I loved that the director chose to include real actual footage.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that.
Clips.
That's right.
Every time that popped up, I was like, oh my God.
So we're getting to see what really happened, raw footage.
Yeah.
And if things weren't challenging enough, Ryan, Iman's gun goes missing, which, if revealed to his superiors, could not only end his career, but put him in jail. Mm-hmm. It's abundantly clear that the government does not want the public to know about what these protests are for, or that they're even happening. And it's clear that the government will take any and all steps to quash them, including state-sponsored killing.
Yeah.
The tension is incredibly high, as are the stakes. This is life and death stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we get, anxious about going to work sometimes in the office, because we're afraid of the boss might, call us into the, his room and give us, disciplinary action or something. But we don't have to, oftentimes we're not worried about life or death.
No, unless we're maybe a surgeon or a judge,
But I can't imagine working a job that high stakes, high stress. It's forcing you to do something you don't want to do. It's questioning your ethical.
It's not a
position.
It's smashing your ethical composition,
which calls to like how he was in the film, Iman. It's kind of like a ghost.
Yeah.
He kind of just comes home and kind of just gets into bed and then kind of
exactly
just wanders around, and it's like I would be too if I had this kind of pressure and high stakes.
I love how we saw him. I totally agree. I love how we saw him in his private moments when he came home too, because he'd come in and like just go straight to the bathroom or take off his shirt, whatever, and we could see the anguish on him,
the stress,
and he knows that what he's signing is these are death warrants.
Yeah. He's like, how can I write off on this?
And yet he's got the pressure of, his career,
His family,
the expectations from his family,
his faith.
You're right. His faith too.
Mm-hmm.
It's remarkable. So before we dive into discussing specific scenes, let's have a bad guy break.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's break things up here. I'm ready.
So, Ryan, you're gonna.
First of all,
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what you're gonna say. What kind of bad guy you chose for this? This is gonna be interesting.
Well, the theme of this is when you learn that your dad is not all that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. That's the angle I took.
Okay.
Because that really parallels this movie.
Okay. Sure.
You're gonna get this one. You're gonna get this one. So it's from 1980.
Okay.
It's a film.
Okay.
The genre is action epic / dark fantasy.
Whoa.
You might not get this because I'm not giving you the obvious starring role.
Okay.
David Prowse.
David Prowse, I've never heard of that name, so.
The movie is Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
And David Prowse is the voice of Darth Vader.
Are you sure?
He's the actor. Sorry.
Oh.
James Earl Jones is the voice.
Yeah, okay,
David
okay,
Prowse
that's
is the
right.
actor. Sorry.
Got it.
Sorry. I think I had his voice in my head.
Okay, so if you would have said James Earl Jones,
I
would have got
couldn't. I couldn't say James
Yeah,
Earl
I would have
Jones.
been like, oh, I know.
No. Forgive me for that.
Man, that's so funny when you find your dad's not all
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that checks out.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So there you have it. There you have our bad guy break.
All right.
So all right. So let's jump into some scenes.
Let's get serious.
And this, like I said, this is almost a 3-hour runtime. It's hard to pick a scene.
I'm so glad you picked this scene.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you picked this.
This scene, wow, this one gets me.
Yeah.
I think you could do a complete episode on this scene alone.
Oh my gosh.
Quite frankly. So the young girls have a friend, Sadaf, and she's a new university student.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd already had her to the house, and mom and dad had already said, particularly mom, you stay away from her, which made the girls probably cling to her even more. So Sadaf is badly injured in a demonstration at Tehran University. And these girls sneak Sadaf into their home, which in and of itself is an extremely risky move, given their father's position. But even if their father didn't have that position, it was still an extremely risky move to bring someone who's seen as a rebel against the state home for refuge. Mom, Najmeh, says no, she must go. But mom ultimately ends up soothing Sadaf and gently, if you can, pulling buckshot from her face, because Sadaf has been shot in the face. And it was difficult to watch.
Oh, that shot just of her pulling it out and the way the sun was coming through the windows.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite shots.
And looking at the expression on her face and seeing how human she was, we see how kind Najmeh is, as well as how moved she is by the violence against this beautiful, young, innocent woman.
Yeah, up until this point in the film, she had been largely against the uprising and the rebellion and kind of trying to keep her daughters at bay, like, don't watch that stuff, don't give into that stuff. And then this moment for me felt like she had a sort of internal switch, internal struggle, an internal, battle with herself of like, oh man, this is this is real.
Absolutely true.
It's not on a TV screen.
No.
This is an actual person that is close to my daughter.
That's right.
It could have been my daughter.
Absolutely. It went from an abstraction to reality very quickly. Mm-hmm. And we got to clock that on this wonderful actress's face.
Yeah.
And, prior to this scene also, Najmeh had suggested that, these women might deserve this.
Yeah.
That they're asking for it if they're not wearing their headscarves correctly.
Yeah.
And she was kind of inferring, well, they might just be harlots.
Sure. Yeah.
So just to have this young woman in their home was huge. The home of a judge. And again, this is an act of rebellion and probably treason.
Sure.
And despite the fact that Najmeh still speaks the party line, she is absolutely moved by this event, as you were saying, Ryan.
100%.
And there's been a shift within her, a small crack in the rigid party line, if you will. In my humble opinion on that.
My second favorite shot is when she's dropping the buckshot into the sink.
Yep.
The bloody buckshot.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Wasn't that something? And she'd pulled out, what, 20 pieces or so?
Poor girl, yeah.
So the girls just wanted to help their friend. You know, they took a huge risk doing so. They stood up not only to their mother and father, though not as directly because he's not around much now, but also to the authoritarian regime. You know, who at the age of 16, 17, or 43 would have such courage?
Yeah, agreed.
I kept thinking that as I'm watching this, and maybe a lot of you would, but most of us will never be faced with such a scenario.
Yeah.
And again, that's where these scenes and these movies provide us with an opportunity to put ourselves in the shoes of these characters and ask ourselves, do I have that much spine?
Yeah, could I do it?
Could I do
If
it?
faced with this kind of dilemma, could I rise to the occasion?
I mean, to me, this was a perfect example of, Ryan, why you and I do this.
Yeah.
You know?
You would hope that you would hope that everybody when put into the scenario would, but that's not the case. We know that's not the case for sure.
By a long shot.
By a long shot. But just being faced with these kinds of unique, unrelenting circumstances, it puts you into a corner.
Yeah.
It puts you in a tough position where, I mean, to just see someone, I mean, most of us have never seen anything like that in our lives and hopefully never will.
Hopefully never will.
But that's happening now.
Absolutely.
It's happening right now.
It is happening right now.
I mean, a girl to come into your home with buckshot, which is essentially like from a shotgun blast.
That's right.
You know,
So it's like
shrapnel,
little BBs,
little
or shrapnel.
pieces of shrapnel that's flown into her face. I mean, even seeing that with your own eyes would send you into a fight or flight, anxiety, panic attack. So kudos. This is a great scene to pick, and it perfectly depicts the theme that we're talking about here.
It
all
does.
three of those women
It
being
does.
extremely brave, including the woman who got wrongly shot in the face.
That's right. That's right.
She was just a bystander at the college.
As far as we know, she was a bystander.
Yeah, she was.
You know,
according to the sister, she wasn't participating.
and even if she were
And even if she were.
participating, yeah, exactly.
More brave.
And in that raw footage that Ryan referred to earlier, these were women
Yeah,
who were standing up.
yeah.
And these are unarmed women standing up to these soldiers / policemen, risking their lives
Yeah.
and getting badly injured.
A lot of bravery.
So much. All the while, the pacing of this movie was fantastic.
Yeah, it kept you on the edge of your seat.
It really
You
did.
never knew what was going to happen.
It was masterful
Yeah.
storytelling,
Yep.
done mostly in secret.
Yeah.
Stunning, truly. So should we go on to another scene?
Let's do it.
So as I mentioned earlier, a major plot point in this movie happens when Iman, the father's gun, goes missing from, the nightstand drawer. It was so clear he had no idea how to handle a firearm or how to secure it.
Mm-hmm.
So in time, we learned that Sana, the younger daughter, stole the gun. But before we discover this, Iman drives the family to a childhood home of his, a place far from Tehran. And he does this mostly to save himself, though his family's also in jeopardy because he has let one of his coworkers, I believe his superior, know, I can't find the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And the man actually suggests, you need to leave town, and gives him another gun.
Yeah. And his address got leaked.
And his address got leaked online.
Yeah.
So they are in serious jeopardy.
They're on the outskirts of town to try to hide out.
Exactly. So he takes them. So once they're at this country home, which was Iman's, I guess it was childhood home.
Yeah.
He proceeds to interrogate his wife and daughters and using a camcorder, recording this.
Yeah.
In order to find out who took the gun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's trying to capture confession from one of his family, one of his daughters or his wife on a camcorder.
He needs proof.
It's extreme. It's extremely tense.
Crazy.
So Rezvan, who was already in on this, she knew that now she discovered on the drive there that Sana took the gun because Sana shows her.
Rezvan.
So Rezvan, the older sister, lies and tells the father that she took the gun in order to protect her mother and sister. So Iman locks up Najmeh, the mom, and Rezvan, the older daughter, while Sana escapes with the gun. And through very clever means, she's able to lure her father out of the house and ultimately tricks him into a trap, temporarily locking him in a shed so that she and her sisters can get away from him.
Yeah.
Now, there's a long foot chase until Sana raises the gun at her father in order to protect her mother, whom Iman has basically caught.
Yeah.
When the father moves towards Sana, Sana panics and shoots the ground beneath Iman, and the earth below him gives way. Sheer, bloody bravery.
Yeah. That's the best way to put it.
I did call that a scene. It was a pretty long scene.
It was multiple, yeah.
And it was multiple scenes.
Yeah.
But I thought that whole sequence deserved discussion.
Yeah, and it encapsulates the theme we're talking about here, bravery. I mean, to be the youngest.
To be the youngest.
And to protect her older sister, and her mother.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, fascinating, just really a treat to watch, and makes you want to be a better person.
Well, that's a good way to put it. I think about how standing up to your parents can be difficult.
Oh.
I think you and I did that.
Sure.
Quite often.
Yeah.
I can speak for myself, certainly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
from what you've told me, I think you and I have that in common.
Yes.
And then add on top of that, your father is a magistrate. Add on top of that, an authoritarian regime. And for Sana to be so clever and to be so imaginative, and also all she wants to do is protect her mother and her sister from their father.
Which is such a turn.
Bah.
Imagine that as a kid. Imagine the complex emotions that come with that.
Well, and to me, the reality of her pointing the gun that she stole from her father at her father, and for her to struggle with that.
Of course.
I mean, if she just kind of stood there and she was resolute, that would have been too much Hollywood to me.
Yeah, you can tell.
The fact that it was ripping her up inside.
It was brutal for her, yeah. To be placed into a position where you're now trying to defend your mother from your father, I mean, that's
right. And you're potentially going to kill your father to do it. And then what? It's not as though that would just kind of take care of everything.
Yeah,
and now we can just go back to our apartment in Tehran and everything's going to be fine. No.
Now there's,
the state is going to come looking for, where's Iman?
For sure.
Where is this guy?
Yeah.
I
Survival. It's sticking up for the people that you care about. It's protecting those that you love. It's
exactly.
She essentially didn't have a choice. It was this or all of us become these, slaves to this man.
And in that sense, Ryan, actually, I think she did have a choice.
Yeah.
Because she could have done exactly that.
Yeah.
She could have just said, okay, Dad, you're right. Okay, we'll just, and we'll.
And gave into it.
Exactly. She could have absolutely given into it. That's right.
And everybody,
that's right.
Yeah.
And things might have been difficult, but now Dad's got his gun back. So that means that he's not going to go to prison. But he also, had the confession of Rezvan, in the camcorder. So do you know, is he going to have his own daughter arrested or not?
And the father's kind of the representation of what's happening in the country.
That's right.
We're seeing what's happening in the country within this family.
That's
we're
right.
Seeing he's kind of like the representation of this authoritarian regime inside the family. He's like controls everything. He's like a dictator
for
of
sure.
The family, and so everybody's under his lock and key.
That's right.
Literally towards the end.
Literally
lock and key.
Literally lock and key.
Locking up your
wife and your daughter. Yeah.
Is like,
and then interrogating them.
Yeah.
And recording the interrogation to get a confession.
Yeah.
And you wonder what is he thinking? Because what he's in doing that, he'll save his own ass. Okay. Well, what have you done to the family? I'm thinking that's not his top priority. Clearly.
Yeah, there's no consideration for the fact that you're going to destroy the entire family.
That's right. But he's probably already justified it that, well, they deserved it because look what they did. They broke the law.
Yeah.
They stood in my way, and I'm the patriarch here. They, lied to me. They actually, I didn't go into this earlier, but the daughters and the mother were taken into, a state custody, if you will, and questioned.
On his authority.
So the standing up, the rebellious, the strength and the courage and the resolve of these women is incredibly moving. And here's what also, though, this movie is not, it's not lectury at all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's not trying to pound a point in.
Yeah.
It's actually just, it's beautiful storytelling.
Yeah, it's just written incredibly well.
And it doesn't feel dogmatic.
No.
It doesn't feel preachy.
Yeah.
It just felt like watching a truly beautiful, very moving, very human movie.
Yeah. About bravery and about sticking up for what's right. And which is exactly what he did with the film.
He sure did.
Standing up for what was
the
right thing to do. This story had to be told, and he did it despite the fact that. So that's 3 layers of this kind of theme and story coming through. So that's pretty remarkable. Not only do we have the bravery of the women who are standing up against this regime in the first place, but we also have her in the family, the youngest daughter that's standing up.
Yes.
And then we have him as the director.
Yes.
Who's standing up again.
Yes.
I mean, it's like layers. And kudos, hats off. I mean, really, truthfully.
Very truthfully, very earnestly. And I read also that all of the actors were taken in for questioning.
Sure.
And I don't know what's happened with any of them, but they had to know that they were also taking a massive chance. So Rasoulof, and forgive me if I'm absolutely butchering the pronunciation of your name. Not my intention at all, because I have mad respect for you as a human being and as an artist. And I think I can speak for both of us. We're extremely thankful that this movie was made. I just wish it had greater distribution.
I know.
I wish it were in more theaters. I wish more people could see it, because Ryan and I had to work pretty hard to find where we could see it.
Yeah, it was hard to find a theater that was even showing it.
Right. And that to me that made me sad.
Yeah,
and so
unfortunate.
I hope that people that listen to this or watch us will go see this movie and spend some dollars because movies like this are, it's worth it.
Yeah.
And it's important.
Yes, agreed.
So with that, should I give the top 5 recommendations?
Okay.
For movies to see if you love this.
All right.
First one is 12 Years a Slave, starring Chetwell Ejiofor on Hulu or Amazon Prime.
Ooh, good one.
The second,
Fantastic film.
Hunger, starring Michael Fassbender on AMC Plus.
Oh, Hunger. What? I've never heard of that. What movie is that? What is that about?
Hunger is about a hunger strike in a Northern Irish jail.
Wow.
And Michael Fassbender plays Bobby Sands, who was a real inmate and a real rebel. And it's a fantastic film.
Man,
Highly
I gotta see
recommend
that.
it.
Okay.
Finding Nemo, starring Albert Brooks, Ellen DeGeneres, and Alex Gould on Hulu. Yeah. Bravery, baby, Bravery.
If you liked us,
Come
do the
on.
Sacred Fig, you
I
should like
know,
Finding
I
Nemo.
know, but I
love
looked
that.
for a courage theme.
No,
that's
a
what I was looking for
fantastic
with all of these.
recommendation.
So, and you know, not all movies about courage have to be heavy.
Sure.
You know,
Agreed.
I thought the stakes were pretty high there in Finding Nemo as well.
They absolutely were.
Number 4 is The Exorcist, and this is for the priest specifically because what he did is incredibly brave.
All right.
That stars Linda Blair and Max von Sydow. That's on Amazon Prime. Number 5, Aliens, starring Sigourney Weaver on Amazon Prime. And again, I probably should have prefaced this. I looked for movies that had, to me, extreme acts of bravery.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver's kicking ass in Aliens.
She sure does.
For sure.
So it's one type of bravery for an actor to bear all, to boldly go where the character takes them. There are countless examples of this, ranging from Sean Penn in Milk, Charlize Theron in Monster, to Christian Bale in The Machinist. But this is a film that took bravery to a different level to me. Mohammad Rasoulof risked jail time, as did all of the actors in it. They weren't risking their reputations.
Sure.
You know, they were risking their liberty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fitting tribute to the brave women of Iran. I personally use this film to ask myself how brave I am, and I won't go into the answer to that. But again, this film is a great example of why you and I do this podcast.
Yeah, I agree. These are the types of stories that deserve to be uplifted. And
Yes.
these are the ones that are going to have an impact and change fundamentally how the world sees things. And that's the importance that art can have on life. And like you said, it made me question my own self. And it brought to light these things that are happening in Iran that maybe I wasn't as privy to. You know, seeing the real raw footage from the girls on social media, it was like, wow.
And the protests of the women, and that was really moving. Like,
Yeah, it was
some of the
very
footage they showed at the end, I was like, wow.
Very
'Cause you
inspiring.
got to hear the real sound
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So this movie might not be for everybody, Ryan, but it was certainly for me. And it sounds like it was for you as well.
Absolutely.
And as Richard Lawson put it in Vanity Fair, the world needs films like The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
Agreed.
So let's wrap it up.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.